There used to be a classic trail to the top of Mount Wilson, which started from Sierra Madre. Unfortunately, it was scorched from the Altadena fire in January 2025, and it's been closed ever since. Time to invent a new classic route up the mountain. I got to Chantry Flat extra early. Not so early that the gate to the road wasn't open, which is 6 a.m., but pretty early. The reason is, especially on the weekends, parking here is pretty competitive. It's only 6:30, and already I got the third to the last parking spot. Also, let's face it, this is a really long hike, 15 miles probably. And it's a short winter day in December and sunset around 6 o'clock. So I have less than 12 hours to do the whole 15 miles. Should be enough, but hey, you never know. Directions to the Chantry Flat parking lot are in the description. As for the trailhead, I start downhill from the parking area toward where I drove in. It's never been a bad idea to know what the fire danger is. Yeah, it's not good. At this gate, I turn left and continue onto the Gabrielino Recreation Trail. I don't need any inspiration at the moment to start my hike, but if I did, this trail has me covered. After descending for about 15 minutes, I cross Winter Creek on a makeshift bridge. A fire destroyed the previous one, which was much nicer. Now, after about 3/4 of a mile, we come to this trail junction at the bottom of the canyon. We want to go left up to Mount Wilson. Now, you do have an alternate route. You can continue straight to Sturdevant Falls, which is it's a 1.25 miles, according to this sign. Then backtrack about a half mile to a junction with a trail that goes uphill to Wilson and connects eventually with this trail. It's your choice. If you really like waterfalls, it might be worth the extra mile or so it takes to do this alternate route. As for me, I take the lower Winter Creek Trail that follows its namesake stream. I'm now officially on the uphill portion of the trip, which will last for about 7 miles. There are more than a dozen creek crossings, none of them difficult. Speaking of the creek, I will pass several of these structures along the way. Now, this dam and many more like it were built in the 1960s to hold back the usual debris that washes down during a big rainstorm and keep it from going into the big Santa Anita Dam reservoir downstream. The trail we're on was the original construction road for the workers building these dams. The trail ascends Big Santa Anita Canyon, much of it steep. About 2 miles into this, I pass one of nearly 80 hundred-year-old cabins spread throughout the canyon. The cabins here are all privately owned. 1 or 2 come on the market from time to time, but consider these caveats before buying. First, the Forest Service doesn't allow them to be rented, so don't even consider about turning one into a B&B. There is no electricity or running water. And perhaps the most important point to keep in mind is this. Originally, there were 220 cabins built in the 1910s and 1920s. Now, less than 79 remain. Why? Forest fires and floods, mainly. It could end up being a shaky investment. The trail continues from here in the usual upward direction. One note of caution, I have to watch for the poison oak, which is everywhere.
Morning. Thank you.
The signage on this trail is not what I would call thorough, but when you absolutely need it, it's usually there. The route hits Hogi's Campground, named for Ari Hogi, who established it in 1907, perhaps as competition to the more deluxe Sturdevant camp, which is on the other side of the canyon. A 1953 fire ended Mr. Hogi's enterprise, which was later revived by the Forest Service. The trail signs leading me out of the campground, though welcome, are perhaps a little vague. By the process of elimination, I take the left option and continue up. Not far from here, I find a junction with the Upper Winter Creek Trail, which I take. Evidence of the 2020 Bobcat fire show up on the trees. Among the casualties in that blaze, 17 cabins. Oh, okay. 3.5 miles to go to the top. Eesh. I know I'm finally making good progress when the trail comes within a few feet of the top of Manzanita Ridge, and I get my first view of Mount Wilson with its telltale white observatories. It's still about 3 miles from here. And then I come to this bench at a junction with the Mount Wilson Sierra Madre Trail. More forest fire history. This from a year ago when the Altadena fire incinerated the hillsides. Of course, that was in a way the least of it. More than 9,400 structures were lost. As for hikers, we no longer have this classic route, which I've done many times. I have to say the Winter Creek Trail isn't too shabby. Maybe it should be the new classic. From the bench, the trail continues uphill, what else is new, and climbs through more fire damage before hitting an historic road. According to the trail signs, I've somehow gone backwards. Construction on the Mount Wilson Toll Road began in 1891. It was a mere 4 feet wide, and then widened after it became popular to 6 feet. And the investors who paid for the construction charged hikers 25 cents to use the road. That is the equivalent of $8 to $9 today. You know, inflation. A year after the Angeles Crest Highway was finished being built in 1935, this was shut down and given over to the Forest Service. They don't charge anything to use it.
The uphill grade eases a bit on the road, although it's not without some obstacles. After a few minutes, I come to this view of radio towers near the Mount Wilson summit. To the right is an unmarked trail that I take. It's a far more direct route to the mountaintop, though steeper. Along the way, I notice I'm tromping through poodle dog bush, which often comes out after a fire. Aside from the redundant name, poodle dog bush is highly toxic if touched, perhaps worse than poison oak. And just when it seems the trail goes on forever, I hit the top, or near the top, at a parking lot. Not exactly the alpine experience on most mountains. I cross the asphalt and find a table at the so-called pavilion. For a Sunday at noon, it's fairly quiet here. Even the fast food purveyor could use a little more business. As for me, I head northeast up these steps, past the water tap, and follow the signs to the observatory, while watching for directions to the Sturdevant Trail. I go past the Astronomical Museum and take a short detour to one of the most famous telescopes around.
This used to be the world's largest telescope when it was built in 1917, and then in 1948 a much larger 200-inch telescope on Mount Palomar, south of here near San Diego, went online. This guy's significance has to do with Edwin Hubble's research into how the universe is expanding and his discovery of other galaxies besides our own. Now, after some upgrades more than 30 years ago, this telescope is still in use.
More directional signs. Just for fun, I cross the bridge to the stars and circle around to this nondescript trail that runs alongside more astronomy-related buildings. And then finally, I reach the Sturdevant Trail. 6 miles of downhill from here, some of it extremely steep. After about 3 miles of this, I come to the historic Sturdevant Camp, built in 1893 by Wilbur Sturdevant during what is called the Great Hiking Era. This is a walk-in only facility with enough cabin space for 34 people. I take the trail through the camp and descend to Spruce Grove, another walk-in campground with far fewer amenities. By the way, no camping is allowed at this lone picnic table. The knee pounding keeps on until the strangely named Falling Sign Junction. I go left, where the trail nearly flattens out for several minutes before softly descending to the Sturdevant Falls Trail, where I turn right. About a half-mile later, the route comes to the hill where I started this morning. This time, of course, going up. After 15 miles, it hurts a little.
That was a grueling but great hike.